Hi, beautiful souls. My name is Sadhana. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to have a look at a medicine wheel spread. This is a continuation of my previous video where I shared with you a bunch of decks that I use in medicine wheel readings. The reason I have this odd camera angle is so you can see this whole picture, and these oracle cards are quite large, and in order to see the whole spread, I wanted to give you an idea of using these cards as place markers, much like you do in a Lenormand reading, where when you're reading the houses in the beginning and you're not familiar with the order of the houses, you can do something like this, and then you could place smaller cards on top, which is what we're going to do for the first example. So let me just talk a little bit about the medicine wheel spread and the different ways that I go about approaching it and why I really like to work with this spread. This is a deep dive spread. This is deep dive work. It's a lot of self-reflection. It's one of those spreads where you lay out the cards and you find a place to leave it for a little bit, either a week or a month, or you take a photo of it and you print the photo and you put it on your sacred space and you keep coming back to it for a period of time, because there's a lot of medicine that will come out of this kind of a reading. Let's look at the components of the spread before we actually get into the interpretation of the spread. This is intended to be somewhat of a medicine wheel. We have a central card here, and the place marker card I chose is a medicine wheel card. So the cards in the center of the deck in the center of the table are from two decks. This one is from the Mystical Shaman, and the other cards, the larger ones, are from the Shamanic Medicine cards. I'll show you those boxes in a little bit. I did show both of these decks in the previous video. The first card that is always for me, regardless of the spread, regardless of what you're doing, I'm shuffling a deck, the first card is going to be the card that I come back to again and again in a reading. And that card will be placed here in the center of the reading. And then, working with the energy of the medicine wheel, the next four cards that I choose are the directions. Now, the kind of training that I have done, the shamanic training, we always start with the south, so that's what I do. I place so the first card goes in the center. The second card gets placed at the south, and I've just put this card here, south. The third card gets placed at the west. The next card, I'm not going to say numbers because I'm going to lose track, gets placed up here at the north. And then the next card gets placed at the east. In a very, very basic spread, a basic medicine wheel spread, you could simply do this 5-card spread with the center card and the 4 directions, south, west, north, and east. Before I go any further, there's a few other things I would like to share with you. One is that when I'm doing this kind of spread, I always orient myself physically so that these cards are actually facing in the correct directions. So I set up the reading. If I was doing this reading for you, I would orient the cards so the north card is actually facing north, which for me is somewhat in this direction here. So this whole reading would get shifted this way. The reason I do that is because I want the reading in alignment with the energy of the universe at this time, and I think that's really important. If you don't have a compass, there's lots of compass apps you can get for your phone, so that's an easy one. The second thing that I want to say is that when I do this reading for myself or for others, I open the directions before I do this. I open and I close the directions. And if this is not something that's part of your practice, this is just a welcoming, it's a welcoming in and an honoring of the medicine of the directions. There's several different schools of shamanism, different associations with different directions, different animals, different medicine, different seasons sometimes. And so depending on who you studied with, where you studied, you will have different associations. And so some of the things I bring up today may or may not resonate with you, but I'm going to share with you that which I'm most familiar with, and I'll throw in a few other things as well too. So just being aware of the directions can bring in a beautiful energy, because each of the directions just within itself has a lot of medicine. So for example, here we have in the north, and I've just placed these are only here as place markers. And then I have placed two other cards as reminders of what I want to share with you today. In the school of shamanism that I trained, the animal, the totem for the north is the hummingbird. And part of the medicine of the north is the ancestors. The mountains are associated with the north, and the wisdom and the solidity of the north, and looking to the ancestors for their guidance and their teaching is all part of the energy here. And one of the reasons I connect with the mystical shaman is because it's very familiar to me, this deck, and it also has the hummingbird in the north, the serpent in the south, the big large winged birds in the east, and the wildcat in the west. And that's why I placed the jaguar here. This is a very personal spread. So for example, if you associate particular seasons with the directions, you might want to have you could use little sticky notes. If you have oracle decks, you could use different oracle decks to lay out the spread. And you might want to have a seasonal card here. Or if you associate a different animal, you might want to have either the word on a post-it, or you might want to have a card here. So the base of the medicine wheel spread is the directions, and everything else is a bonus. And I'm going to share with you what I have here today and how I go about building this, because there's a lot of aspects that I bring in, and when I do this kind of a reading for you, I bring in a lot of energy. Before I go on with that, the question is, do I use oracle cards or tarot cards for this reading? As the reading expands, I use a mixture of cards, and I'm going to show you how I combine decks to do these readings. Right now, what you're looking at here is just the spread, the layout of the spread. These are not the cards that are drawn for these particular positions. If I were doing a really quick spread, I would probably just use tarot cards, and I would put down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And because I know what the energy is with the East, I would read this particular tarot card in association with the energy of the large winged birds, the teachers, and all the other medicine of the East. And so that's how I would read the context within which I would read this particular tarot card. If I have more time and I want to do a larger reading, then I'm going to use a combination of oracle cards and tarot cards. And for the most part, either I use oracle cards for these 4 points. These 4 points here are the elements: water, fire, air, and earth. Generally speaking, these are the cards, these are the positions that I'm going to use oracle cards for, and I'll use tarot cards for the rest. But I have lots of other different ways that I do this, and I'm going to explain all of that very slowly as we kind of go through, and I'll show you how I build this, and then I'll do some demos a little bit later on. So shuffle your deck. So I may as well shuffle a deck, and I'll just show you. This is the Vision Quest Tarot, which works beautifully with a medicine wheel spread. I've already shuffled this deck. Sorry if you can hear my washing machine, but I've been stopping and starting things all day today. It's been a very noisy household. And the washing needs to get done, doesn't it? So my intention here, so when I'm filming this, this is the new moon. I've already been in ceremony today. This is the new moon. The new moon is in Aries. This is astrologically, we're in the sign of Aries, and in many, many cultures of the world, this is a beginning. This is a fresh start. And so let's kind of look at what the energy of that fresh start is. So the first card in the center of the reading is the Eight of Earth. That's really beautiful. The keyword, this is a Thoth-based deck. However, Many of the cards you can read in a Rider-Waite-Smith kind of energy, or in a very unique energy based on, the energy of the Vision Quest Tarot. I'm also going to just take the bottom card here, because the bottom card I always place over here, okay, in this side of the reading. The second card that I am going to place goes down to the south on the energy of the serpent. And then the next card is going to go here in the west, and the next card in the north, and then this card here, okay, in the east. And in a very simple, the simplest version of the spread, this is all I would do, is to place these 4 cards and have this card kind of over to the side. So this, you can call it the shadow card, you can call it the unfinished business card, you can call it the card that haunts me, you can call it whatever you want, but it stays there kind of out of the way, and I bring this in later, usually to reinforce what I've already talked about. So the theme for this reading, the theme for the intention for the new year, the kind of energy around this new beginning, is the 8 of Earth. The key word for this one is an inner order, which is really beautiful. And you can see these 8 squashes here beginning to grow, beginning to bloom. And there is definitely something that is percolating, something that is growing. So I suspect that you have already planted your seeds. You've already started something. And so what you need to know is, what is the energy around that, and how is that supported by the teachings of the directions. This card here in the south, for me, is associated with something you need to let go of. You see how I have the serpent card here? So the main teaching of the serpent is the shedding of the skin. So really allowing yourself that permission to shed the skin and to step into your true self. Now the snake, the serpent, sheds its skin over and over, right? I don't know how many times each breed of snake does it, but it's not something we do just once in a lifetime. These are stages that we go through. And so we walk the wheel many times in our lifetime, just like we walk the Fool's Journey. So that which you need to shed right now is the 9 of Fire. So we have inner order and inner strength. And what I'm seeing here is the need to always, look how this is firing up through the center of the reading. This is actually really beautiful surgence of energy. But we need to let go of that bull in the china shop kind of energy. What I'm seeing here is we probably need to invite in a little more gentleness, and we will feel refreshed. We will feel born anew. We will feel ready for this new cycle if we can perhaps let that. Then I'm always bringing in yogic teachings because it's something that just is in part of who I am. But when we are always leading with the right side of the body, when we're always leading with that masculine, fiery energy, there's this tendency for exhaustion. There's this tendency we're doing. And there is an attachment also to the mind in regards to this. And so in bringing that into balance, in stepping into the softer feminine side of the body, we need to move in more and more into a place of trust. And so that sense of being guided rather than leading is definitely going to serve this inner growth, this inner order, and this inner peace. And then in the West, so this is associated, I've got here the Death card and the Jaguar. So the Jaguar tracks patterns. This is much like, it's kind of like a karma card, but these are, for me, the biggest nugget for this when I was doing my shamanic training was to find the medicine, to find the gold in those relationships, usually with people who are no longer here, that were most troubling, to find the greatest teachings from the experience of death, and to let the rest go. So one of the exercises we did in our training was we had to go to the most confounded, challenging relationship that we had to go through the experience of death with, and then talk about the beauty of that relationship. And it was a very, very profound experience for a lot of people. Now, how is this different from the shedding of the skin? This is kind of personal. This feels very close to self. This feels more on a karmic level, if that makes sense. So this feels like a really important step in the chakra kind of teachings. This is moving into right relationship with family and understanding the deep connection with all of those relationships that are really, really hard to understand. This also teaches us to be, the luminous warrior card goes here as well too. So this is about standing really strong and standing in your own power and being brave and being courageous. And the card that's here is the 9 of Earth. And in this particular deck, this is not necessarily a positive card. This is a lot of accumulation of stuff. And what comes to mind, I just looked at this card now, is that the sense of not wanting to let go of loved ones, you know, hanging on to boxes and boxes of stuff that belongs to loved ones, hanging on to too many mementos, too much memorabilia. The theme of this new year and moving forward, I'm just going to go back to this, is the 8 of Earths, this inner peace, this inner growth. And in order to expand inwardly, we need to release outwardly. In the North, where we look to the joy of the hummingbird, but also the whispers and the wisdom of the ancestors. Oh, that's beautiful. Whoa, we have the vision quest. The other bit about this direction is, when I was doing my training, is that this is the direction where you practice your solo fires and you go off and you do your first fires alone in ceremony. And it's really funny. We have the vision quest card here. So this is number 12. So this is the Hanged Man. And this is the idea of being in a place alone on your journey. And in being alone, you have this opportunity to be closer to spirit, be more connected to spirit. And being in this position, it feels like there are some messages from your ancestors that are definitely going to come through and benefit. So part of this inner order is to, in your meditations, in your walks, in your meditative walks in the forest, or however you spend your quiet time, is to perhaps connect with the ancestors and to connect with the wisdom of the ancestors and to allow that message to come through. For you, it also may be connected to, there's always something about the hummingbird in the North, and the whole idea with, there's a lot of teachings around that, and a lot of the animal tarot decks and a lot of the oracles include the hummingbird. And also remember that the hummingbird kind of flits about rather quickly, and so things can happen in that way. On this vision quest, there may be, like, I feel like sometimes when we do this work, we think it's going to be a long, long, long haul. And I was saying to keep this reading on your table for a while. Sometimes things can happen really, really fast. So I just wanted to give you a flavor for how I go about doing this reading. And then here in the land of the rising sun, the East. So think of the East. These are the big winged birds who have the higher perspective. They see the whole picture. This is also the direction of the teachers, right? The visionaries. And here the card is the 6 of Fire, victory. So that feels pretty sweet sitting over here in the East. And we also have, right, the sun, the energy of the sun. So look to the East. The East might be your source of power, that inner strength that you need for this transition, for moving forward, for building and developing this inner order, may actually be a practice where you pay more attention to the rising sun. So your experience of victory, your experience of success through this transition may be, and actually every morning getting up and acknowledging the rising sun. It could be something really simple like that. So when I do this spread, this is the simplest way that I do the spread with these 5 cards, and then I'm going to look at this. Sorry, I had to change my battery. 5 cards, and then this was the card that's on the bottom of the deck. So that's totally optional if you want to bring this into the reading or not. And again, this is the card that is going to, it's kind of that card that is haunting you, something that you really need to pay attention to, not just in the back of your mind, but to kind of, this is the card that I would perhaps stick on the mirror in my bathroom, you know. This is 9 of water. This is joy. This is really actually kind of beautiful. There have been quite a few. Look at this, 9, 9, 9. 3 9s here. And the more time that I had and the more that I was going into this reading, I definitely would develop the energy behind the numerology here too, because it's pretty powerful in this reading. But the thing that you need to be celebrating in this inner journey, this growth that you're experiencing, is this beauty of the abundance and the beauty of the joyfulness. This, of course, too, is a beautiful card to connect to the element of water. And if I were bringing in this particular reading, the elements, then I'm definitely going to connect these 2 cards together, just because of what this tarot card is here. Okay, so joy is something that you want to kind of postage stamp, you know, right on your third eye. Something that you are not paying enough attention to. Okay, so that's kind of version 1 of the reading. The next option would be to add more cards to the reading. And that would be to add the element cards. The cards, the first 5 cards remain exactly the same, and I place them in that order. I know other people, when they call in the directions, they call them in a different order. So a lot of people begin with the east, because that's the land of the rising sun. So for some people, it's going to make more sense that this will be the second card. Card in the center, second card, third, fourth, and fifth, the card on the bottom of the deck. And that's entirely up to you. One of the things that I'm really trying to work with right now is to not be attached necessarily to traditions or expectations. And maybe with a particular client, with a particular question on a particular day, it's going to make a lot more sense to lay the second card here than here. But traditionally, this is where I'm going to place the card. My doggy just walked underneath the table. There's no earthquake here. So yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and shadow card. To expand the reading, the next thing I do is to lay down 4 oracle cards for the elements. And one of the things that's really cool with doing that is if you get a wands card in the element of fire, or a swords card in the element of air, and so forth, pentacles and cups, it's a very kind of emphatic energy, and it's really interesting to read. Sometimes it's harder to read when you get different cards. Like if, for example, I don't know, like a 3 of cups appears in the sign of fire, it takes a little more time to kind of sit with that and see how the element of fire enhances or takes away from that particular card. I was talking about laying down oracle cards, sorry, not tarot cards. You could also do this with tarot cards. So you could lay this whole reading out with tarot cards, with your tarot deck. You do not have to you do not have to mix tarot cards and oracle. Sorry, you do not have to mix, tarot and oracle, but that is an option. In the previous video, I talked about using, so two different options. Use one tarot deck and one oracle deck. Or use one tarot deck and 4 different oracle decks. And I suggested bringing in a plant deck, an animal deck, and a deck that connects to the ancestors, and a deck that just in general feels really connected to the earth. And as I was preparing for this video, I'm thinking, it depends on certain days in certain ways, but I was thinking that I would place the plant deck here. Pardon my reach. So I have already, here, just let me give this a quick shuffle. This is the Hedge Witch Botanical. And I'm just going to place the whole deck here for now. So I'm placing the plant deck on the element of water. And I'm going to use this one. Use another tarot deck, we'll use that. I've never done a video with this camera angle before. It feels really strange, but this is something that's really hard to demonstrate if I don't give you the whole picture. Okay, so the animals, I want to place the animals next to the plants, and I'm going to place the animal deck on the earth. Right, and so if you had chosen, for example, one of the decks I recommended the other day was the Winged Enchantment, maybe I would place the Winged Enchantment up here, because that would make sense on the element of air to have the Winged Enchantment up there. And connecting to the ancestors, I used this deck earlier today for something. This is the Goddesses deck by Susan Sidon-Boulay. And there's something about this deck, it really does a good job connecting to lots of different cultures. And I'm going to use this deck right now for the north. And then, not for the north, I'm going to use it for the wind. One of the things I was contemplating was listening to the whispers of the ancestors in the wind. Listening to the whispers of the ancestors in the wind. You know, sometimes we feel like we've got those high frequency vibrations in the ear and it feels a little uncomfortable. And that's what we've got Eagle Woman. Okay. I'll turn that one over just so you can see the beautiful, beautiful artwork. And that's kind of interesting. We have the Eagle Woman sitting right above the energy of the large winged birds. And for the Earth deck, now why am I using these decks? It's very hard. So of course, the Earth-centric deck would make sense to place it here, but I'm also using an animal deck. There's no right or wrong answer about where to place these decks. You could use one oracle deck. You could use 4 oracle decks. It's entirely up to you. If you're using one oracle deck, it would be really nice that the deck you were using had all of these qualities. It had plants, it had animals, it had earth messages, it had connections to gods or goddesses or the ancestors. You know, that's the kind of deck that I'm looking for when I'm doing this work. Or you bring in a whole bunch of decks and you try to replicate that energy by using many decks instead of one deck. Okay, well, we don't need that one. And then I'll pull the Wildwood Tarot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull some tarot cards and we will fill up all these other spaces. You'll also notice here I have an above and a below card. And if you wanted to, you can expand the reading even further to include as above, so below. For the significator, for the foundation, I chose the card Great Mystery To me, this represents the universal consciousness. So you can call this God, you can call this spirit, you can call this the unknown, whatever word you put to this. You might have a specific God name that you associate with above. And below, I put the Pachamama card there, which is associated with the goddess, with all things manifest of the earth. This is where I place the bottom card in the deck. And then over on the far right is kind of like the next step. The next step card. And I place the journey card there. So this spread is so beautiful. It's so helpful, and it's one of these spreads that is deeply, deeply connected, because you're connecting to the earth, you're connecting to the animals and the plants and the ancestors and the energy of the elements and the directions. I think this is my favorite spread. I mean, I use the chakra spread a lot, but this spread just really, if I have the time to do a reading with this spread, it's really, really beautiful. And like I said, if you have different associations with the elements, if you have different associations with the directions, then go for it. You don't have to use the associations that I'm sharing with you today. Okay, so same kind of, I'm going to actually shuffle and just put that intention out there again. So the idea for this reading is that we're still working with this new energy. We're stepping into alignment with I have been overwhelmed with messages about what's going on right now in the universe. And for those of you that are watching this years down the road, this particular video was recorded during second, third week of the COVID-19 virus pandemic. And all of us were living in isolation, basically. And so there's a lot of reaching out through social media and so forth. And there's a lot of confusion in the environment. And on this day that this video is made, it is the new moon is in Aries, and the sun is in Aries, and we're stepping forth to a new year in many cultures around the world. So what is this new energy that is coming forth? Six of Vessels. Reunion. Connection, people. It's about connection. It's about reaching out. And perhaps it's about healing energy. Healing energy with family. This is the medicine wheel. This is a medicine spread. And one of the things I think to remind ourselves of is that if you don't want to know, don't ask. Because sometimes information, it's all too much. And I'm reminding clients of that all the time. So that's a really beautiful message, isn't it? Reach out, connect, heal old wounds. You have time to do it now. What needs to be released? How can you step forth in your own authentic way, which is the energy of the serpent for me. It's the 10 of arrows instruction, so the 10 of fire. And this fits in so beautifully. The wildwood, of course, has different keywords, different associations than an RWS deck, but if you can step into the role of teacher, of mentor, of a guide, perhaps to others in your family, others in your extended family, using the word family loosely, in your circles. So what are you shedding? You're shedding those inhibitions that prevent you from using your gift you know, saying that, oh, I don't have enough knowledge, or I don't quite know it well enough, that kind of thing. 8 of Vessels is rebirth. So we have the 8 of Cups in death. This is a real opportunity to reinvent these relationships, to see these relationships from a whole new perspective. This feels like a lot of emotion, right? It's a lot of emotion. And so to allow yourself to go there, to allow yourself to connect in a very heartfelt way. Yeah, that's pretty beautiful. 2 of Stones, challenge. Your family, ancestors, family traditions. Your family may not have been one to connect. It might have been a family that did not talk about feelings, did not talk about emotions, did not share some of the sacred arts, perhaps, if this is something that you like to do with your family. So you may feel challenged, quite literally, to present some of your ideas, the ideas that are coming up from your heart space. And in order to work with those challenges, to work with those conflicts, to work with bringing all of that into balance, how I use the medicine wheel is to actually look at the medicine of the north. So the medicine of the north is to call in the ancestors and to ask them what is really important and what was that really about, and to sit with that in meditation. But also to keep coming back to joy, to the joyfulness of the energy of the hummingbird. And wow, we have another Cups card. We have the Ace of Vessels. So the big picture is the Ace of Vessels. The big picture is to see this as an opportunity for a fresh start of a brand new relationship with people, brand new, to allow those emotions to flow. And this might not be easy, but it's going to be the exact medicine that you need at this time. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to put the shadow card down here before I forget. Now, the other positions, let's go to the elements, and then we'll do above and below. I can put above and below down, and then I can put these tarot cards down. Oh, and I'm going to do a, so for this card over here, I either take this card, or sometimes I shuffle, and choose another card, but that's entirely up to you. Do I open the element cards in any particular order? No, I don't. So with the element, well, sometimes it's going to depend on what cards are here. We have a lot of water, so we could look to the energy of water and kind of see, what is all this water about, or what is the medicine for the water, because this is the plant medicine here. And the plant medicine is chicory, and the key word is sustain. Sustain. I feel, to me, this feels, is blue too, that's beautiful. For those of you that work with color, the idea with, and this guidebook is going to be full of beautiful ideas as well too. So in the, what did I say it is? The Hedge Witch Botanical. This is Ceola Thompson's plant medicine deck. There's lots of plant medicine for working with the plant itself. So this is also an invitation to work with the plant with chicory, but picking up on the energy of the keyword. This, what I've been suggesting here, is to not just give it one kick at the can, but to really figure out a plan and make it your best effort to be connecting with your family and friends and your extended family, and beginning to really work on these relationships. So in the element of fire, we have volcano. a volatility. So that could be kind of, right? So here's an example of a card, a fairly easy interpretation, because this feels very emphatic. And if you are relating to this reading, you're going to know what this means. And this could set off a trigger. This could trigger reaction in some of, the people that you are reaching out to. It could also trigger something within yourself. This also looks very much like a Tower card. So that whole energy of just allowing whatever needs to diffuse, to diffuse. In the wind. So depending on how you interpret wind, that's entirely up to you, the element of air. For me, each of these elements is also connected to a chakra. And when I do a reading for you, I'm definitely going to bring in the chakra medicine because that's who I am. But you need to work within your comfort and your various associations you have with the elements. And the element of air is connected to the heart space. But if you're a tarot person and you're kind of stuck on the air being the mind and the thought and all of that, then go ahead and work with that. But I also mentioned that we had this eagle over the position of the teacher and the eagle. And notice how that the teacher, this card was implying teaching here, right? And so the big picture is, this is very, very important relationship. And we'll see that in going forward, the next step, it's home. It's 10 of Pentacles, right? So all of this is going to happen right in the hearth of the home. And the goddess energy in the wind, the wisdom from the wind. I'm going to put my glasses on and read Eagle Woman to you, okay? Despite the fact that the life-giving and death-wielding bird goddess is one of the oldest representations of the goddess, eagles have usually been linked with the masculine, with a few exceptions. The Sphinx of Egypt had the wings of an eagle, and the Aztec goddess, I'm not going to say her name, Chicacotl, maybe, was called Eagle Woman. The Eagle Woman shows a new marriage of the feminine and the eagle. She represents all an eagle stands for: spirit, valor, majesty, renewal, accuracy of sight, spiritual aim, and the ability to soar to new heights. She also holds in her hand a vessel, the traditional symbol for the feminine, for that which receives, contains, and nourishes. This is so beautiful. This is the energy of balance, this finding that softness and the feminine energy in the strength of the masculine. So you stepping forth as a teacher, as a leader, and allowing yourself to bloom as a mentor will have tremendous karmic balancing effects on the whole family. Just let me finish this. This is crazy beautiful. She also holds a vessel, as I said, that here both sets of values are joined, emblematic of a different combination of strengths that are part of being woman-born. Eagle Woman is a joyful affirmation of our ability to break out of millennia-old stereotypes and find a new definition that embraces the entire continuum of being alive. She teaches that women can express the qualities of the eagle while continuing to contain and nurture. That's so, so powerful. And the medicine here is deep self-respect. I really like that we have the bull here in the energy of the earth, right? It creates this real sense of groundedness, deep, sturdy foundation. Like it feels very balanced and very, very set. You see what I mean? Like it's an amazing spread to really work with healing. So yes, this Queen of Air is sitting underneath all of this. And I see this speaking to wisdom and also voice. So there is that association with air, with voice. And so really allowing your voice to come through and to embracing all of this. Wow. I'm really kind of touched and in awe of this reading, and I might actually write about this in a blog because there's a lot more that I have to say. And then up here we have that spark of energy, right? That initial. So this is your Ace of Wands, that initial spark to really make a shift, to really make a change. It's almost as if that universal consciousness is lighting that spark for you, guiding your way to make this transition into, you are going to affect a lot of people on this journey. So anyway, the purpose of this video wasn't the actual reading itself. It was to explain the medicine wheel spread. I do want to show you one more thing. So I'm just going to pick up the wildwood. Now I'm shuffling Angels and Ancestors, and we're going to lay out the cards for using just 2 decks. So I'm going to use Angels and Ancestors for the Oracle, and I'm going to use Margaret Peterson for the Tarot deck. In the previous video, I also talked about using a really deep dive Oracle deck for the center card. So sometimes what I might do is shuffle a deck like the Weaver's Oracle and place the Weaver in the center. And then I'm going to use the Tarot deck for the directions, the shadow, and I'll use the Oracle deck here. Of course, you could use the Tarot deck as well too, and above, so below. That's how I would pull. That's how I would pull in a Weaver, probably. But just because the Weaver is such a powerful card, and the Weaver would speak really well to both the directions and the elements. And remember, I'm saying that these cards here are just placed for your reference for this video. When I'm doing a reading, these cards would not be on the table. The table would just be bare because I'm completely aware of what these positions are and what these positions represent. And remember to orient yourself at the table and to open the directions. Those are 2 things that I always do. Okay, so the other thing I would do is to place the Tarot deck. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My shadow card's going here. Okay. And then as above, so below, and the journey. And then I'm going to take the Oracle deck. Now the order for the elements for me does have an order. I said earlier it doesn't matter where you go, and if you do have an association with the elements that makes sense, which one you would place first. For me, I'm going to place Earth because I'm going up with the chakras. That's just the way I am. Water, fire, and air. If you're using 2 decks, this is the way that I would lay out the cards. Right? Does that make sense? So it's pretty straightforward. For those of you that love to work with Oracle decks and have, you could actually do this opposite. So you could use 4 tarot cards, and all of these could be Oracle cards. But to me, that's an awful lot of Oracle cards. It's the reading is a lot more fluid if I'm using tarot cards for the cross. Except I might replace this with a card like, well, it could be another deck too. It could be this one that I showed you in the previous video. Maybe this card I would place in the center. This beautiful deck, because there's a lot, Alana Fairchild, if you've read her guidebooks, there's a lot that goes on into her guidebooks, and so one of these cards could definitely be the first card, and then the first tarot card for me would be South, so this card would have gone there. But I'm not going to mix that up right now. And let's just have a look, just to see what we're at here. 6 of Feathers. 6 of Feathers. So there's definitely a sense of movement. Whew, there's definitely a sense of movement. I am going to leave you with that. And I'd like to give you a little bit of time to reflect on this spread and to write some questions in the chat below. And I'm happy to, go on an extended conversation and to make a follow-up video. So please let me know what is clear, what is unclear, if you have any questions about the particular positions in this spread or my choice of decks. And once I am done the reading and I'm ready to remove the cards from the table, then I'm going to go and close the directions as well too. So don't forget that aspect. Okay? So thank you very much for being here today. And yeah, stay well. And good luck to you all in the current situation that we are all facing. Do your best and be kind to one another. Namaste.